If you've only got one Irish whiskey in your collection, many people believe this whiskey should be it. Yes, indeed, Redbreast 12-year-old single pot still Irish whiskey. They call it the quintessential Irish whiskey. They call it a gateway whiskey. They call it a sherry bomb. Some even say this is the heartbeat of Irish whiskey. But is Redbreast 12 actually that good in 2025? Or is it all just outdated hype? Welcome to the Redbreast Diaries, where I will be looking at Redbreast Irish whiskey, a bit about its history and tasting as many Redbreast bottles as I can get my hands on. This is one of the most respected Irish whiskies in the world, and actually probably now one of the most respected whiskies in the world. So I'm going to look at all of that over the next couple of videos. And first things first, let's start with the iconic Redbreast 12. And there we go, that is the iconic bottle and iconic label of Redbreast 12 single pot still Irish whiskey. Now this is the Irish whiskey for many people that made us fall in love with Irish whiskey, and I was the same. I remember I used to get a bottle every Christmas from my auntie, and then when I moved away from home I would then buy myself one every Christmas. So it kind of brings that nostalgic taste and just feeling all back when I have a bottle and when I taste it. However, I'm not too sure whether nostalgia is playing a part or it's actually that good anymore. But for a long time, a lot of people have been saying this is the whiskey you gotta taste, this is the whiskey you gotta buy, this is the quintessential Irish whiskey. Even when people say, where should I start when I taste Irish whiskey? Redbreast 12. I hear it again and again. Redbreast 12. Now, Redbreast is made down in the Midleton Distillery in County Cork by Irish Distillers Limited, who are also owned by the big conglomerate Pernod Ricard. And they own other brands like Beefeater Gin, Havana Club, Absolute Vodka, and Jameson. So, Jameson and Redbreast are closer than some people may think. And on the label, just under the name, there's a thing that says single pot still. Now, single pot still Irish whiskey is very much what we are hanging our hats on to be the kind of quintessential Irish whiskey style. Very much like single malt whiskey in Scotland. Single pot still is kind of what we're looking for as like the best of the best in Ireland. Let's be clear though, we still do make single malt in Ireland, and also not all single pot still is the best of the best, alright? Now, single just means one distillery. So that just means one distillery, in this case the Midleton Distillery, has made this whiskey. And then single pot still, the pot still element, means that the whiskey that is being made by this one distillery uses at least 30% malted barley and at least 30% unmalted barley. Then they distill those for Redbreast 3 times in big massive copper pot stills. Then underneath it says Irish whiskey. Now there's quite a lot that you need to actually legally do to be an Irish whiskey, but some of them include being bottled at least 40% alcohol by volume, ABV, or 80 proof. It has to be aged on the island of Ireland for at least 3 years in wooden barrels such as oak, and there's a couple of other rules that you need to follow. And Redbreast comes in at 40% ABV, 80 proof, so cool. We're good to go there. Next on the label it says aged 12 years. Okay, so it has to be aged for at least 3 years to legally be an Irish whiskey, and this one has been aged for 12 years. Now also, legally in Irish whiskey, you must put the number of the youngest whiskey in the bottle if you're going to put an age statement on. So the youngest whiskey in this bottle is 12 years old. There could be older, there could be 13, 14, 15 years in this. There could even be 35. But they legally cannot put that in the label. They must put the youngest age on the label. So this one has been aged for at least 12 years. And underneath it says triple distilled and matured in the finest oak casks. Again, to be an Irish whiskey, you have to be aged in wooden casks such as oak, so that's good to see. Triple distilled That means that they distill this 3 times in these big, massive copper pot stills. Now, legally in Ireland, you only have to distill twice, but they are choosing to distill a 3rd time for Redbreast. And the casks that Redbreast 12 are matured in are ex-bourbon casks and sherry butts. So that'll start to give what we know as like the quintessential. I keep saying quintessential. It's kind of linked with this bottle, the word quintessential, but it gives us that very like infamous flavour that we think about when we taste Redbreast 12. And Redbreast 12 is matured in ex-bourbon casks and sherry butts, and that typically will give this whiskey what we call like a Christmas cake sort of flavour. Alright, now maybe I'm bringing that back to how I like to have it at Christmas, and I'll see if that's true now when I taste it with you all. Alright, let's see if Redbreast 12 still has the magic. Now, just before I taste this glass of Redbreast 12, if you are enjoying this video and want to see more about the Redbreast Diaries that are going to be coming out over the next couple of weeks, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Honestly, it helps so much. Feed my ego, but genuinely, the numbers going up genuinely make all of this worthwhile. You know, drinking whiskey's hard sometimes. Oh yeah, back to the video. Okay, so here we go. Here, that nose is unbelievable. I absolutely adore smelling this whiskey. Straight away, that rich sherry note just comes off the nose. It's so warming, inviting. Straight away, I'm being brought back to Christmas Day with my family. But taking that out of the mix, you definitely start to get those dried nuts, dried fruits, all of these things that we would start to kind of say as a sherry type of aroma. Then there is that wee hint of like vanilla, sort of like fudgy note just there as well, which will be coming from that bourbon cask influence. It's definitely layered but not intimidating, and that's probably why this is such a good whiskey to start with, because it allows you to start to pull out those aromas without having to sit with it and go through like a big lexicon of aromas to try to like understand the whiskey. This very much brings the horse to water. So let's give it a wee sip. Yes, the mouthfeel is incredibly creamy. It's almost like the signature style of single pot still is this big creamy mouthfeel, and that oiliness or creaminess typically comes from that unmalted barley. But on the tip of the tongue, that sweetness just prickles along with some like black white pepper or even some bacon spices, so I think like cinnamon, maybe a little dusting of nutmeg, and just on the finish like a little flash of orange peel, like orange zest, you know. There is that oakiness sort of influence with some vanilla in there too. Much like the aroma, it's not an intimidating whiskey to taste all of these flavours. It's very nice, very approachable, and the overall finish is quite like medium, you know. It's one of those ones that it doesn't last all day, but it does give you enough just to be like, oh, nice, inviting you back for another sip, while those pot still spices just sort of ping across the palate. But the one thing that has to be said about Redbreast 12 is it is balanced phenomenally well. They literally have nailed the flavour, the congeners, the oils, everything in this glass is perfectly balanced. Now this whiskey, like I said, is 40% ABV or 80 proof, and typically you wouldn't add water, but I do get asked every now and again, can I add ice to my whiskey, or is it sacrilegious to add water to your whiskey? I reckon I'm just going to add some water to see if it changes the taste at all. Why not? Okay. Straight away when you add the water, you can almost see like a kind of like a sugary sort of clash of it all. It's a wee bit marbly, and then you give it a swirl and it all comes back together. Again, whiskey in a bottle is predominantly water, right? So straight away I must admit it has lost that big comfortable nose on it. A bit more like green though, like fresh green apples, a bit grassier on the nose, but I do struggle to get any of that huge sherry note. I definitely get like the oak, so the bourbon cask comes through, but I have to stick my nose in pretty heavy to get that one out of this whiskey. On the palate with the water, it still has a lot of those flavours that I actually pulled out when it was fully 40%. They're not as intense, absolutely not. It's a bit more like a honeyed vanilla, a honeyed oak. Definitely that honey is coming out a fair bit. The pot still spices are still prickling along, maybe not any of that black pepper or white pepper, a bit more like nutmeggy, less finesse I suppose. But those spices do keep buzzing around, like they're not leaving necessarily, so that finish is still like that medium length, but the complexity of the vanilla, the nuts, that sherry, that Christmas cake is kind of gone with the water, which is almost to be expected. Some people say that when you add water to a whiskey, it's like a firework going off, all right? Instantly, you will get these huge, wonderful, big, bright notes, but then the longer and the more water you add, the more you're dulling it down. These flavours start to dissipate in the sky or in your glass, you know? Now, price-wise, this isn't an everyday whiskey, right? For some people, this is definitely not budget-friendly. It might be once in a blue moon. It might be to celebrate a birthday, a wedding, or Christmas, even. But the question is it still worth it? And I would say yes. Definitely, Redbreast 12 is still worth it. It still is one of the best whiskies coming out of Ireland that showcases what great whiskey from Ireland can taste like. This really has set the benchmark, stood the test of time. Many, many new whiskies are out there, all going for, I want to beat Redbreast. I want to be the next Redbreast. Well, Redbreast is still flying that flag. Redbreast 12 is approachable. It's a nice celebratory whiskey. May not be in everyone's budget, but if you wanted a whiskey to introduce people to the category of single pot still, or you just wanted a wonderful whiskey to enjoy, Redbreast 12 is definitely still up there. The benchmark has truly been set, but can the rest of the Redbreast range match it or beat it? Because this is the first one in the core range of Redbreast. Does it get better with age? Does it get better with price? This is the cheapest Redbreast, but yes, Redbreast 12 should earn a place on your whiskey shelf. It's essentially like vinyl. It's timeless. It's classic. It's full of soul. The soul of Ireland. If you have tasted Redbreast 12, let me know in the comments what you think. Like, is it better with water? Is it better with ice? I didn't try it with ice. Maybe you could do that experiment for me at home. Add ice. Let me know what it tastes like. And if you are new to Redbreast, stick around because the next video on the Redbreast Diaries is on Redbreast 12-year-old cask strength. But will that change the flavour? Will it change the experience? Is it as good as the original? Stick around and find out. And don't forget to subscribe. But in the meantime, I'm going to find my glass of whiskey and enjoy it. Cheers. Sláinte.